Hello and welcome to the More Than Roommates podcast. I'm Dan, here with my roommate Graham.
G-Unit.
Graham, how's it going?
What would you say, living the dream?
Yeah.
Is that what they say when they're in existential crisis?
Why are you in an existential?
No, I'm good.
Okay, that's good.
I'm
I was
alright.
like, oh, do I need to pause this for a second?
No.
That's good.
Just busy.
Yep. Well, we did have a fun weekend. Some R&R. We got to go to the Lake of the Ozarks, where my old college roommate, roommate,
finally got to relax a little bit.
Yeah, Pepper got to go out on the boat. I caught some fish.
She did surprisingly well on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
I thought for sure, she did not want to be on the dock whatsoever.
She is not
she
a
does
swimming
not like
girl.
the water. So I thought maybe, but I don't know. I guess her view is kind of blocked in the boat. She's kind of laid down.
Yeah, she likes the wind in her ears and stuff.
True.
So
yeah.
she had a good time. It was a nice, relaxing time. We had the perfect storm come in that evening, and we got to listen to the thunder and see the lightning come in.
It was a vibe.
It was very much a vibe. So.
A little springish for actual fall, but I'm not going to complain.
No. Yeah. And I think it was like a good reset since we're going to have 3 weekends back to back really booked up. So hopefully we have some.
There could be 4 or 5.
Yeah.
We're going to run right into the holidays.
For sure. So we might have some good stories coming up. Okay, so something we wanted to talk about on the podcast today was something I'm surprised we have not talked about sooner, but it is the Westboro Baptist Church. So if you were around in the 2015s, you had probably heard about them, but they are located here in Topeka. So you actually grew up with them being around here.
Yes, absolutely.
So
they've been around for decades at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they were definitely I don't know what you would call them. They were very well known, nationally, but especially around town because their church is here in Topeka.
Yes.
It was founded here.
If the Westboro Baptist Church name rings a bell, they are popular for holding up those protest signs that says God hates Fs. And so we're actually going to, instead of saying that word, we're going to say it backwards. So God hates gaffs.
Gaffs. Yeah.
So if you read between the lines, but that's kind of what they got popular doing. They would protest military funerals, all stuff.
Everything. Yeah.
And they just hold these horrible signs that say everyone's gonna burn an HE Devil hockey sticks.
We can't even say that.
We can say hell. I think we can. Okay. But they'll say you'll burn in hell and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of their rise to fame. But before we get into all of that, we want to give you a little backstory about when they were founded and kind of what their premise is. So we want to give you some backstory about the Westboro Baptist Church. So they were founded in 1955 by Fred Phelps. So he was the pastor for many years, and then he died in 2014. So he was the main mastermind behind this. Mm-hmm. So they are characterized as a church, but they are very extreme in how they go about their things. So kind of tell us, so Graham grew up here in Topeka. So what was it like? What was your experience growing up? How did you interact with them, or how did they interact in the city?
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, they picket everything. I remember being in high school studying in our Shawnee County Library, the public library, and they were picketing the library. They had signs that said "Gaff Library."
Jeez.
It was just
because they
insane.
sold books, banned books and stuff, I'm sure. Or
they think everyone is gonna burn in hell except for them. They think they have whatever kind of religious, grandiose kind of ideology. They think that they're exclusively getting into heaven
and no one else, unless you follow what they do.
Yeah, but
they're mean about it. They will get in your face, and so kind of they rose to fame in the 2015s.
Honestly,
or before that, because he died in 2014.
They got really into the anti-LGBTQ stuff in probably the late 80s. This is something that I've seen my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
The same neon green and neon orange and whatever pink, whatever signs.
Yeah.
But
And so
it's something that I've seen my whole life, and it's like not like an easy thing to look at.
Oh, I'm
really.
sure.
They're super offensive for one.
Yeah, they're made to try to incite people. So what I heard is a lot of them were lawyers.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yes.
So they would purposely.
I think they had like 10 to 12
Okay.
at one point, but they founded their own law firm, and from my understanding, like, they've obviously been called, a hate group because they go beyond just LGBTQ issues as well.
They protest military funerals.
Oh yeah,
and
they
cop funerals.
I remember going back to 9/11. Like
Wow.
they were praising that people died in that.
Wow.
And even if you want to go back further, like, I think what brought them into kind of the national spotlight. Do you know Matthew Shepard?
No.
He was like a very, like, one of the first open kind of like LGBTQ people who was murdered for being gay. And he, it was kind of a national thing. Well, I think that could have been one of their first, ventures, because they go around all over the country,
Right,
and picket, not even just that, but they were there, and it brought a lot of attention to them.
Wow.
So
And so
sad.
the reason I mentioned the lawyer part is their signs, of course, are meant to incite you. They're supposed to get you riled up. And there are a lot of instances where people will kind of push them or get up in their face, because you can imagine you're at a military funeral and they're protesting it after someone who just gave their life for the country.
Yeah. They had signs, literally, sorry to cut you off, but they had signs that like said, "Thank God for dead soldiers."
Yeah.
Like, they're literally the most hated family
Yeah.
in America. Like,
yeah, there were articles about that.
yeah,
and stuff.
their documentaries have been done. Like, they're
They would they get their funding by waiting till someone gets in their face and assaults them, and then they would sue them, and that's kind of like where the money would come from to keep them going, so that they could travel across the country and protest these things. So they're trying to get you riled up. And I will say, after living here and seeing them, it is hard to like drive. They stick around my work. I have not seen them so often until I got this current job that I'm at.
Really?
I see them probably once a week now, and they're
I feel like
over
I've
by.
only seen them like once in like the past like 5 years.
I know. I see them probably once a week now.
Wow.
And there's so many times that I like want to like lay on my horn or flick them off, but I don't. But
yeah,
it's crazy. They'll have kids out there.
Oh yeah,
holding these signs.
Very like, talk about indoctrination. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of y'all want to talk about
The gay agenda.
drag queens and the gay agenda, but they've literally have this church. It's really just, to me, it feels like a veil, a very thin veil to hide behind, to just hate people.
Yeah.
Like, what, I mean.
So do you think that impacted you being gay and all of that?
Yeah.
Like how that was your upbringing?
I think it probably affected, people's views of it here too. You know what I mean? If you see people outside holding a sign, well, maybe not pre-internet, but, kind of before all the information was at your fingertips, like it is today on social media.
Yeah.
I'm sure it probably did get, a lot of people probably agreed with some of that stuff until they, clearly went too far.
Right.
Like, for some people, obviously that's way too far. But
yeah. And I think what the silver lining in all of this is, and the reason we wanted to talk about it, is how the town has reacted to them and how they treat those protesters. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Of course, being in Topeka, it's awesome because people don't tolerate that. And you even talked about in college. You want to share that story?
Yeah. So I was part of a group in college, as Stan mentioned, Students Against the Westboro Baptist Church. And we would literally, like, our only thing we did on like Sunday mornings for weeks and months, maybe a year, we would go figure out where they were protesting, and we had our own signs, and we were very, like, respectful with like our signs, and we would just stand in front of them and counter protest, whatever you want to call it. But they were just as mean as you mentioned. Like, I remember getting a little bit too close to them, and they literally, like, this guy who was in their church, or I don't know if it was a family member or not, but he looked at me and he said, "Cute shoes, Gaffett."
Whoa.
Yeah. But yeah, some of us were, I don't know, we were getting a little rowdy at times,
I'm
probably
sure
because
students.
people, just
Mob
the level
mentality.
of disrespect too.
Yeah.
But,
So kind of the stance is, and so when I came here as a reporter, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. There's this group that's doing this. I have heard of them. Like, I remember like the first story that I was like, oh my gosh, they're out here protesting in front of this event. This is huge. And what I thought was super cool was our news station had a stance that we would never cover them, because the only reason they were out there is to stir up controversy and to get media attention. So it's kind of like a known thing that you just don't talk about it here. You don't give them the attention that they crave. And I just thought that was so cool to just have this stance that it's just like, okay.
I mean, I don't think anyone wants to tolerate it.
And it's
like,
not,
their beliefs are so absolutely abhorrent.
Yeah, and it doesn't reflect on the people here at all.
Right.
It's such a small group, and I think that's been what's so cool.
Declining too, which
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, they did a story about a person who like escaped the Westboro Baptist Church, and she talked about what it was like.
The family member, right?
Yeah, it was
Shirley.
Like niece or something.
I can't remember. Shirley might have been the daughter or wife. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah. And then the other cool part about it is the building that is right next to the church.
Yeah.
So the church, if I recall correctly, it has this big fence, and there are all these signs.
It's on a corner.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And there's these signs that like or say what they picket, God hates gaffes and all that stuff. But next to it is the Equality House, which is the coolest thing, and it is so awesome to go and see it. But they painted the outside of the house the transgender pride flag and all of that, and it's a museum, if I'm not mistaken, right?
And
anyone can come in.
Transgender house next to it now too, right?
Oh, I thought that was all in one. Oh wow!
There's a Rainbow Equality House, and then there's a transgender house right next to it. I'm pretty sure.
That's super awesome. So it's like, it's so awesome to drive by and just see like people,
and they have to look, just knowing that they have to look at that every day.
Yeah.
They walk into that cult church,
Yeah, and it is awesome. Like even when I've been driving around and seeing them protesting, like people be shouting stuff at them, and like there is no tolerance for that here.
Yeah,
and
they hate America. Like they've been known to burn flags and like deface them. Like they literally like think that they hate the U.S.
Yeah.
They hate all of us.
Yeah, like
I cannot stress that enough. Like yes, they like are very particular about the gaffes, but it doesn't stop there. They literally think everyone is going to hell.
Yeah. So it's just cool seeing how the city just doesn't tolerate it, and people kind of ignore them, and hopefully they're losing their footing, because you don't hear about them near as much, but they used to make national headlines because it was so just outrageous.
Well, I think, and maybe we should fact check this, but I think they like legislature. So let's back up a little bit too. So a lot of people are probably wondering, how do they get away with this? Like with these signs and like their website.
Like, their website is awful, but we won't even give them the benefit of the traffic.
So we've already talked, obviously they have a very big legal presence for their own entity. Well, they actually fought in the Supreme Court, I believe, and won to be able to use that for free speech. But I think Congress, so, especially with like military funerals and even like the school shootings, now that I'm thinking about it, like I think they went and protested the funerals of like Sandy Hook.
Wow.
They have zero respect, remorse, regard, any of that. But I believe that the legislature actually had to put some kind of law into effect that they have to be so many feet away from actual funeral services.
Yeah, so to give the families like peace of mind,
because
they were getting too close.
They were getting way too close. They were right there shouting,
Yeah.
I'm sure, for who knows how long.
I do think that now that you say that, I do recall that.
Yeah.
So
we'll fact check that. We
Yeah.
could drop some. Yeah.
yeah, we'll be if you're
But,
watching this, we'll be including like headlines and stuff as we discuss it. But
Yeah, I'll find an old picture from my Students Against Westboro Baptist Church days too.
yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely like an interesting thing, and driving by it while I'm going back to work on my lunch break, it does down your mood, because you're like, oh my gosh, there are people that actually think like this, but it's such a small group, and it just makes me feel good when people are shouting back at them and not tolerating that type of behavior.
Yeah. I'm honestly just ignore them 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's all they want, is to get you riled up.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Like I don't even think about them. It's like I think more about the strides we've made, here
As
in
a
Topeka
city.
as a city anyway.
And I think that's probably why it's taken us 28 episodes. And I was just like at work today, and I saw them, and I was like, oh my gosh, we haven't talked about this.
Yeah.
Because it really is not a big factor at all.
Oh no, not at all.
But
Like,
yeah, it's crazy that this exists, but people just kind of like, oh, that's Westboro Baptist Church, like, let's just
they're
keep it moving.
bonkers.
Yeah, but we wanted to share that because
Yeah,
it's just an
there's-
interesting piece of history, and it's a part of our history living here.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
growing up
say
with it, as you said.
I don't feel threatened as an adult. I feel that
I feel like after Fred, the original pastor
passed away.
I feel like that is maybe when the dust was starting to kind of settle with it personally too.
Yeah.
But before that, they had a huge presence, it felt like.
Yeah, for sure.
But now, I don't even think about them. But
Yeah.
Gladly, luckily.
Yeah, we just wanted to share our thoughts about that. And if you have heard of them, I'm curious to hear what you've heard about them and all of that stuff.
Where did you hear or see them,
Yes.
Because, like I said, I think they've been all over the U.S.
For sure.
But,
And I do want to change gears right before we wrap up. But I want to give a shout out to one of our biggest fans, Cash the dog. I'm going to include a video, but his owner has told us that he was my roommate's girlfriend's dog that lived with us when they adopted him. He's a golden retriever, and whenever they watch our podcast, he listens and he can hear our voice, and whenever he hears Pepper's collar jingle, he apparently starts whimpering and stuff. So Cash, I'm giving you a shout out. I'm hoping your owners can send me some videos so we can include it. But
give
it was
Cash all the good boy pets.
Cash is just the best dog ever.
Yeah, we got some good pictures with him this weekend.
Yeah.
He's such a cuddly boy
too. Like golden retrievers are where it's at, I must say. I used to think they were a little overrated, but after experiencing him and just how he is just like a really loyal dog, and his personality, he's obsessed with tennis balls. We would have he would have like a tennis ball, and he would be like freaking out and clawing under the couch, and we're like, Cash, there is no tennis ball under there. And sure enough, we would like flip the couch over, and there it would be
20 of them roll out.
Yeah, right. So I just wanted to give Cash a shout out. Thank you for listening to us.
Yeah.
But I think that should do it this week. We're gonna be on our wedding hustle for the next 2 weeks. So
it'll be fun.
Getting on the dance floor.
Maybe.
You're not gonna dance after.
How many drinks am I drinking?
Yeah, I mean, after like 9 o'clock, it's like, Cupid shuffles on, like all this stuff. I love dancing at weddings.
That's where we
stuff.
differ. I'm not a big fan.
You don't like it? You don't like it at all?
No, I never have.
Really? I really actually, even at homecomings and stuff, I would dance the entire time.
The entire time?
Yeah, well, like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a good dancer by any means, but I do enjoy dancing. Like, just being up on the dance floor.
I guess I did when I was in my 20s. Hated it as a teenager. Couldn't get with it. 20s, became a little more outgoing. Kind of got out of my shell. And had a lot of fun back in those days. But now that I'm in my 30s, like, I'm just like, bro, it's past my bedtime.
True.
Like, or even if it's not past my bedtime, it's past the time I want to be out.
Yeah. Even slow dancing doesn't bother me. Like, I would slow dance at prom and homecoming, but I do like it, just like, all the fun stuff. So we'll get you out on the dance floor. I'll take videos, guys, and include it in here.
Negative.
Okay. Well, we will see you guys next time. Bye.